We want some eyeballs to put these LEDs in. There's quite a few places you can get suitable shapes, eyeballs. This is the roller out of an underarm deodorant, so they're quite easily obtainable. These ones are quite handy. I don't know if you notice, it's actually got a hole in it. These are, what can we call them? Beer can widgets, as they're called. They're quite fun to get hold of. One of my personal favourites, actually. I'll just show you how you get it. You get a tin of a particular type of drink, and you get a glass. You open the tin, and you pour the drink in at full flow, and this little widget thing, as it's called, actually causes the foam to form in a particular way so that it doesn't flow over the top of the glass. I'll just move that a bit closer, you can't see the top of the glass. There we are. So that just poured straight in, and if you shake the bottle now, you can hear there's still something inside it. And what that is, I cut it open. And do be careful, because that is sharp now. But inside there's the widget, as it's called. Quite annoyingly, they do tend to have a little bit of drink left inside them, so before you can actually use them you'll need to drain that. I'll just put that to one side. The easiest way to drain them is to just drill a small hole somewhere where it's not going to matter. So, I don't know if you can see, there's just a tiny little bit of fluid in there. So I'll drill a little hole in it. And just leave it to drain out. So there we go, that's how to get some eyeballs to put your LEDs in. So you can either just use underarm deodorant rollers, or you can get hold of these widgets. I like these widgets, as I say, because they've got the hole in the middle already for positioning your LED. I'll probably put the LED in there and then possibly put some hot glue over it or something with some colour in it to give us the coloured light. Anyway, I'll leave that for a few minutes to drain, and come back to it later. I've now come to a decision as to what I'm going to mount my flashing eyes in. I'm going to make a headstone from a grave. I've seen a few videos on how to do it on YouTube. Most people seem to use, in fact all the videos I've seen, all use polystyrene to make the headstone. I'm not going to use polystyrene, I'm going to use cardboard. Simply because that's what I have available to me. That's a pizza tray, I'll explain what that's for in a second. Craft knife, pen, ordinary cardboard tray, sort of thing you get from a supermarket that they use for carrying, I don't know, grapes, fruit, something or other. Anyway, it's nice double thickness cardboard, pretty stiff stuff. All I'm going to do initially is cut it to shape, trim the edges off. I still want it to be reasonably thick. Cut a curve around the top, because all gravestones have a curve around the top of some sort or other, or at least nearly all the ones I've seen on YouTube do. and then I shall spray paint it and mount my flashing eyes in it somewhere. May even have more than 2 eyes in it, may have, I don't know, 2, 4 or 6 or something like that. But that's the plan. First thing I'm going to do is put a curve on the top, which is what I've got the pizza tray for. It just happens to be a handy curve. I'll get my cutting board so I don't damage the top of my table. Go around there quite nicely, be able to hot glue that in place. There we go, that's our, or will be, our curved top. Right, there we go, that's stage 1 completed. So many bits. So what I've done, as I say, I've cut the curves, hot glued background, so we've now got the beginnings of a gravestone. Right, we're out in my garage at the moment. I've just given that one coat of grey paint just to give me an idea of how it's going to look. While we're out in my garage, you can have a look at my eyeballs that I'm draining at the moment. Haven't quite finished draining, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Well, that's more than enough. Right, we've got the basic shape going on. What I now want to do is effectively emboss it, or give it a bit more 3-dimensional thickness. I'm going to stick an edge around it, probably a piece across the top there with some letters in it cut into it to give it a 3D effect or an engraved effect. That's supposed to be a hammer chisel, that shape. So that's what I'm going to do next. Right, there we are, there's a few edges added to it. So we've got our letters nicely embossed. Right, out in the back garden, I've just given the edges a run over with some sealant just to give it a bit more of a, I don't know what effect you'd call it, organic. That's one of those words people like to use. Basically it's just given the edges a bit of a curve to them. Okay, we're another step closer. Just giving it another coat of paint, just so I can see what it's going to look like when it's all one colour. This isn't the finished colour, this is much too light, but it's an undercoat. It's looking better. So a few more stages to go yet. Okay guys, the last coat of paint I put on the gravestone actually says it takes 24 hours to dry. I really ought to read these things before I do them. So I've come back in to do a bit of work on the circuit. You may notice this looks a bit different to the one that I showed you before. It is actually exactly the same circuit. I've just doubled it up. So there's 4 transistors instead of just 2, and 4 LEDs instead of 2. And I'm playing around with capacitors to vary the blink rate. And what I'm also going to do is actually double up all the LEDs. That's what I've just been building here. So they're in pairs. So what I'll actually have is 4 pairs of LEDs, which I shall then plug into that circuit, and then plug the LEDs into these widgets, as I call them. So just to give you an idea, if I stick that in there, better if I turn a few lights off, I suppose. That's a bit better. Okay, so that just fits nicely in there. I'll stick a bit of hot glue in it to hold it in place, and that'll be our glowing eyeballs. Right, I've just hot glued the LEDs in place. So better turn the lights off again. So there's our pairs of eyeballs. It's just running off a button cell at the moment. So the idea there is to run them off that circuit. But I expect we can leave that for the next episode.